Author's Introduction. Ian Meets The Manosphere. I guess it all began, for me at least, when one of the managers at the big porn office I work at came to me and said, "Ian, how'd you like to write a book on picking up women?" Now, there's a lot of possible comebacks to that question. From simple, "Dude, I've been married for 15 years. It's been 2 decades since I picked up a woman," to the more sophisticated, "Considering the tumultuous state of affairs in intergender interpersonal relationships, not to mention the chaotic dating landscape recently complicated by such factors as Facebook and internet dating, the construction of such a guide would be a Herculean undertaking. But I'm a professional. I asked the only real question that mattered. How much?" He named a sum far smaller than a conventional book advance, but then this was no conventional book. He then told me I had a month to do it. Editorial standards will be low, but he wanted a completed manuscript. There was a look of challenge in his eye. But that's not what made me do it. It was September. Christmas was 3 months away, and I have a wife, 3 kids, and a mortgage. A professional doesn't let such opportunities pass by. I'll do it. And that's how it all began, for me at least. The result of this whirlwind month of research and long nights on obscure sites all over the internet was a basic guide for how to meet and seduce women. Emphasis on basic. I interviewed local PUAs, hung out with a crew of grad students at Duke University, where Tucker Max went to law school and the lacrosse team went to jail. Research into evolutionary biology, an examination of the current demographics. I put everything I could into it. And I'm a pretty resourceful dude by all accounts. Every night I cranked away at it, hacked into form, and tried to make it as remedial as possible. At the end of the month, I had the complete book, entitled The Gentleman's Guide to Picking Up Women. On deadline, I got my check, and a Merry Christmas was had by all. But along the way, I had stumbled across the early formation on what became the Manosphere. In particular, I had stumbled on the fascinating science of game, a somewhat aggressive seduction technique that was enjoying more and more success and notoriety, even as it was alarming the few feminists paying attention. You're going to hear a lot about game, as it is known from one of the seminal and influential, if widely acknowledged as flawed, works on the subject, Neil Strauss, The Game, 2005. Strauss's work was also being one of the first game books to gain notoriety among the mainstream, but since it really has been 20 years since I picked up a woman, the science of the Crimson Arts was of more academic interest to me than anything else. But it was, as I said, fascinating to hear these intelligent young men use their minds, educations, and resources in pursuit of one of the few things that make them happy these days: sex. And since I work marketing porn, I keep up on my research about game and watched how it developed. These dudes were a choice demographic for me after all. Knowing their sexual styles, their likes and dislikes, and their consumer attitudes made me a more effective marketer. And their dads were already paying my rent. The 40-something married guy is my biggest demographic. I ignored most of the political bullshit at first. I was intrigued by the psychology. Seduction is an important thing, even for an OMG, old married guy. And you can't be in marketing, particularly porn marketing, unless you understand the psychology of your customers. The game blogs were crude and rude, but they were also efficient and, surprisingly, effective. Names like Royce and Roosh and Mystery started to rise to the surface among the others as these young men took a variety of techniques and started looking at them as a system. A system for guys to get laid by hot girls with a minimum of bullshit. Whether that is inherently misogynist or not, I'll leave to your own judgment. But before you make your decision, consider how much time and effort is spent on the XX side of the force attempt to allure and attract men, as well as please them in bed. Cosmo and Glamour are focused intently on the subject. You simply can't pick up a copy of Cosmopolitan without seeing some derivation of the word sex on the cover at least 3 times. The average is 4. I check every month. That's what we sex nerds do. So, if Cosmo and Glamour are designed to help women get laid, and that's not considered inherently misandrous, by logical extension, then Royce and Roosh shouldn't be considered misogynists. Just because they want to teach guys their techniques designed to get them laid. They might be for their political views, perhaps, but let's just stick to sex for now. It didn't end with the game blogs. From there, I got led over to blogs by men that revolved around long-term relationships, then the PUA's one-night stand bonanza. And from there, I ran across the term manosphere for the first time. I was, again, intrigued. I was a man. How could I not be intrigued? And what I found was breathtaking. My exploration of this interesting, passionate, and fertile ground of masculinity and how it could very well lead to a resurgence of masculine pride and endeavor seemed destined to become a book. Or at least result in higher porn sales. Whichever. Whether you consider it a counterpoint to feminism, authored and inspired by the fruits of feminist theory, or merely a way for dudes to score poon and bitch about their lives, the manosphere is starting to form. And at some point, I don't remember exactly when, I realized this has the potential to change everything. A whole internet subculture devoted to the pursuit of masculine interests. So I grabbed the comet by the tail and dove into that dirty snowball, and this is what I found. Each chapter contains not only a discussion about the blogs in that area, but also some contextual history and a little mythopoetic to cleanse your palate between courses. Because before you can understand the manosphere and grasp its significance, you have to understand how we got where we are and why. But first, a brief note to my feminist sisters.